Hello and welcome to the third sector. I'm your host, Tamara Brinkman. In our society, there are three sectors: the public, the private, and the nonprofit. And it's that third sector that we are here to talk about today. My guest on today's show will be Roxie Deer from Wayne County Chamber. And also joining me later in the show will be Alex Painter from the Wayne County Foundation. But first up, we have Roxie. Hey, Roxie.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. So Roxie is director. Well, give us your title.
I'm the Director of Membership and Education for the Chamber.
So within that, the reason Roxie's here more specifically today is to speak about hype, because it's a super important, wonderful part of the work that she does, and it's also a pathway, really particularly for the younger generation in our community to work within the community in a more active and intentional way. And so with that, Roxie, tell us about hype. When did it start? How long's it been around?
Yeah. So HYPE stands for Helping Young Professionals Engage, and we work with anyone 21 to 40-ish. We're pretty light on what that age range is, but we've been around since the early 2000s, and it started as a social networking group, finding fun things for young professionals to do, maybe not recreate and create our own events, but just tag along with what's already happening in the community. And the organization has ebbed and flowed through many different looks and different ways through the past 20 years. And in 2019, we were reworking what HYPE looked like. That board of directors, it was its own separate 501c3. We were getting a lot of pushback from the community that there weren't opportunities for young professionals to develop professionally. And I was working at the chamber at the time, and I was hearing from the chamber board, where are the young people? Why aren't they coming to our events? Why aren't they doing things in the community? And so I'm hearing it from both ends. And I ended up being able to have a great conversation with the chamber board of directors and the HYPE board of directors. And they decided it was time for the two to merge together. So HYPE came under the chamber umbrella as a committee. And over the last 2 years, I can't believe it's been 2 years, but most of it was spent in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We've been really working on 3 pillars. The first is professional development. The second is social networking. And then the third, which we never expected, was volunteer opportunities for young professionals.
Wow, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
So what would you say, if there's a mission, is it really around the 3 pillars that you just mentioned, or is there more of a mission statement that you all have?
We do. We have a mission statement. It's to develop, engage, and empower young professionals.
Okay.
So we really rely on those 3 words to help us find our programming. And in those 3 sectors, or in those 3 pillars, we can typically find programming that connects to all 3 of those.
Okay. Do you have any idea, like roughly how many folks are sort of engaged in HYPE?
Yes, great question. So we're waiting for some new census data to come out, and we haven't really dove into what happened with our census during 2020, but we know there's about 19,000 young professionals in that community, and that's everyone in that age range.
Okay.
We don't have 19,000 members.
Right.
We don't. We have about 30 members who meet monthly.
Uh-huh.
And then we have about 3,000 members that attend at least one event over an entire year. So they could be attending a webinar that we host. They could attend a night at the museum. Maybe they participate and volunteer at the Meltdown Festival. There's various ways that they can get involved, but we usually see about 3,000 throughout the year connect with our organization.
Wow, that's a lot of folks, and there's also a lot of people out there that if maybe they're watching today and they didn't know about this and they fall into that sort of 19,000-ish number, hopefully they will, this will help them want to maybe participate in the community in a more active way. With that, if folks were wanting to know more about HYPE or seek an opportunity to join a meeting or an event, what's the best way for them to learn more about HYPE?
Absolutely. You can visit our social media. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We have Twitter. We don't use Twitter a lot. You can also visit hypewaynecounty.org. And if you can't find that information, you can always reach out to me at the chamber. And this is the really cool thing about Hype, and other communities have young professional organizations, but we're really fortunate with that chamber partnership that if your company is a chamber member, you're automatically considered a member of Hype. You get all of those benefits. If your company's not, it's an additional charge a month, and it's really a minimal charge, not a lot.
So what would be some goals that you all have for Hype for, say, the next, well, I don't know how far out we're looking these days. It's a little bit tough. Maybe it's only a year, maybe it's a couple years, maybe it's 6 months, but give us what that might look like for you all.
So we just wrapped up our first cohort of WC Leads. That's a leadership academy. We had 12 cohort members in that class. We're launching our next cohort. Applications will start on July 1st for those. That program will continue once a year. Moving forward, we are also going to expand our incentive program called It's Worth the Hype. That program is going to recognize young professionals who maybe aren't involved in Hype, but maybe they're on the United Way board, or they volunteer for a nonprofit in the community or attend community events. They can log those points and then cash them in for various things throughout the year. We just had a group of young professionals cash in points, and they used them for the RSO Symphony Night. And so we all attended with that. There were 14 of us there, and they had earned those points to earn those free tickets. So
what a wonderful program. I'm excited. Yeah. I'm a little bit over the age range to be participatory and Hype in that way, but I love it. I think it's so great that you guys are offering all these wonderful opportunities for folks to engage and experience some of the wonderful things that our community has to offer. Like you said, Absolutely. You know, we have a symphony, we have an art museum, we have a lot of nonprofits that are serving a lot of different people within our community who have needs, and volunteers are always needed for that work. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
So tell us about, so for Hype, do you guys have to, how does Hype get funding? Is it through donors? Is it grants, public, private? All?
A little bit of everything.
Okay.
So we are fortunate, like I said, to be under the chamber, and part of the chamber partner program is businesses can opt in to fund Hype. And so that funds a good portion of what we do. We have events. A lot of times what we do, if there is an event, there might be a little tiny cost associated with that. There's also a lot of grants out there for young professional organizations. So we've received 3 grants this year alone, just to help continue programming and scholarships for young professionals. And those are just small grants that we've applied for. We, in the past, it's just been a kind of make it till you break it philosophy, but this year funding has been a little bit more steady for us. And that comes with businesses recognizing the need of the young professional organization.
Yeah, that's a key thing. We're certainly in a time where connecting with people can be challenging. We're coming out of a space where folks haven't connected very heavily with others. So it's great to see some of our core businesses or folks that have been in the community a long time, both, you know, where maybe they were raised here, their businesses here,
Yeah.
you know, looking to, it's almost like creating a feeder program, if you will, right? You think about it for sports or things like that, but what happens when all the folks that have been, you know, giving back or helping or starting businesses in the community, well, you know, as the numbers go, we start to, you know, go on in the years. And so it's great that this opportunity exists for people to get involved, because we want that great spirit the community has to continue on, you know, as we move through, you know, the next 10, 20, 30 years in the community.
One thing I love about Hype is that we're putting a big emphasis on mentorship, and all the cohort members from WC Leads received a mentor that was in a similar career path as them. We hope to expand on that mentorship opportunity. And there's always the young professionals that come to us and they say, hey, I'm a young professional. I don't know. I need somebody. So we'll always connect people with mentors. And we also do a lot of retention opportunities for businesses. If they're really struggling to connect a young professional outside of work, we can always sit down and help find their ways in the community to connect them.
Wow, that's really great, because no one wants to feel alone in a community. And in particular, I think I feel like I've heard some neat things you guys do for people who are new to the area, or maybe relocating on behalf of a job that brings them here. Talk a little bit about how you guys kind of try to basically help welcome them to the community.
So it's kind of a one-woman welcome bandwagon that I'm on right now, but businesses will call us and they will say, hey, we've got a young professional. They're moving in from Colorado. They're moving in from Delaware. Can you help connect them? And so usually it starts with an email conversation. And very quickly, we have to establish the needs. Do they have housing? Do they have childcare? Do they know what school their kids are going to go to? And then once those basic needs are covered, we start talking about what do you like to do in your free time? And just recently I met with a young lady who was into CrossFit. And so I was able to connect with her to a local gym that has CrossFit and a CrossFit group, and just help her when she landed and when she was established in the community. She immediately had a community surrounding her, not just go to work, go home, which we see a lot with young professionals. Now we're seeing them connect outside of their home and their work, and they're finding places for them. We are starting a new program called Make My Move Campaign, which will be recruiting remote workers to the area, and there will be some incentive packages along with that as well.
Yeah, and that's really exciting, because that's part of a national campaign across the country that communities are doing. But it's great that we are participating actively in that effort as well.
Absolutely.
As we get ready to wrap up our time together, it's gone so quickly, it always is like
quick, right?
Yeah. So we've heard a lot about what Hype does for the community, and along with that, kind of sort of the impact it has. What would happen if Hype ceased to exist in our community?
That's a tough thing to think about. I would hope that there would never be a time when that doesn't exist. We need young professionals. We're the future generation. We're going to be the business leaders, the political leaders, the nonprofit leaders, the future donors and philanthropic people in the community. And so we need an organization that really teaches this generation what that means, what it means to give back to the community, to lead in your community, to give to your community. So without Hype, that won't happen.
Yeah. Well, we have to leave it there today, Roxie. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing with not just me, but our whole community about the great work that Hype does and the opportunities to get involved and engaged. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, Alex Painter from the Wayne County Foundation will be joining me. Stay with us. Welcome back. Joining me now is Alex Painter from the Wayne County Foundation. Hey, Alex.
Tamara, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm very thank you for joining the show, coming on. I really appreciate you giving us some time. So start off, give us your position at the Wayne County Foundation.
Absolutely. So I serve the Wayne County Foundation as the Community Engagement Officer, which was a newly created role when I started back in December of 2020. But the foundation really wanted to put a heavy emphasis on further embedding ourselves into the community. So having kind of that point person, that whether it's the students who are applying for scholarships or the nonprofits who are applying for grants can kind of come to. And so aside from just being kind of that outward facing person, so to speak, I kind of also help oversee those grants, the grant process and the scholarship process as well.
Right. So you work a lot with the nonprofits in the community, which we obviously highlight a lot on this show and try to give them a platform to talk about the work that they do in the community. What is like the mission of your area within the foundation, or maybe it's the foundation's mission and everything falls underneath that?
Sure. Yeah. I guess speaking broadly, our mission at the foundation is to be a champion of private philanthropy here in Wayne County and to really champion charitable giving. And as a result of that, we focus heavily on increasing the quality of life and the community vitality for the residents here in Wayne County. So that's kind of our broad goal. But really, again, our goal then, how we achieve that is kind of twofold. We want to make sure that we are helping donors achieve their or their family's philanthropic goals, whatever that may be, depending on what their goals are, their resources, their passions, whatever it might be. We really want to plug them in to a mechanism that we have here at the foundation. It might be a fund type or whatever it may be to really help them achieve whatever it is that they'd like to achieve. And then also just serve as a community benefit, obviously. We grant out a lot of money to local nonprofits. We award a lot of scholarships to local students every single year. So we really try to connect those two pieces, working with our donors and then connecting that with our local nonprofits and students.
Right. Very important work for our community to have that that full picture and to help make those connections, because oftentimes that's the part that can be kind of the most challenging for folks, is to figure out, how and where to go. So what would you say would be kind of the goals for you all for maybe the next year or so? And you're welcome to take that a little bit further out if there's something a little more specific, but our world is such these days that, that whole, hey, where you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now, I think we've all had to bring that into a little bit more of an iterative process and a lesser time frame.
Oh, I agree. You're asked all the time, personally, where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years? Like, I don't know where I'm going to be in 6 months.
Right.
But I guess when you ask that question, I appreciate the question, Tamara. The Wayne County Foundation is actually one of the oldest foundations in the state of Indiana. We were founded in February of 1979. So we have been in the community for over 4 decades, which is really astonishing when you consider that we were the 12th community foundation in Indiana, and there are now 75 today that represent all 92 counties. Wow. So our goal, whereas for a long time, it was a good existence for a long time, where community foundations kind of served as a place where donors can go or leave gifts. And, they knew that they would be well stewarded. They knew they would be pushed out into the community in charitable ways. However, there's been a shift here recently in the last few years, I think, from what I've been able to gather, that folks really look to their community foundations for leadership. And so our goal is to make our grant making as flexible and as dynamic as we can. And so this year, 2022, we actually debuted a brand new grant program where we are pretty much granting all throughout the year, whereas before we kind of granted in the spring and in the fall. We are grant making all year, and we're trying to meet nonprofit organizations where they are, with the types of requests that they might have, whether it's smaller projects, larger projects, if an organization's in a crisis, or if they are thinking about their capacity building. So one of our goals for this year and beyond is to really ensure that our grant making is as impactful as it can be. And then I mentioned the community leadership piece. I'd be remiss not to mention our initiative called Forward Wayne County, which really it's a small initiative. It's not actually a small initiative, pardon me. It's actually a large initiative that falls under the umbrella of the foundation. And so they focus on community issues. They bring people together, appropriate people have conversations, whether it's about our Main Street coalitions, employability, or a broadband task force, because all these things that folks have identified as issues or growth edges for the community. So Forward Wayne County is a huge piece also of our community leadership initiative as well. Yes.
So you talked a bit about the change in your grant making process to widen it throughout the year, providing a lot more flexibility around that. So I'm a nonprofit, and I didn't know a lot about the Wayne County Foundation. And I'm watching the show, and it's like, oh, wow, they have some opportunities for grants. What's the best way to connect with you guys or get more information, find out what those timelines are?
Tamara, I really appreciate that question. So if you go to our website, which is waynecountyfoundation.org, and there's a section at the top that just says grants, and then it has nonprofits there. So if you click that, and there's like an applying for a grants page where it'll actually lay out all of our different grant types as well as the timelines throughout the entire year. So we encourage all nonprofits who are interested in pursuing a grant from the foundation to first visit that page to get a sense of the times that these things are going to be offered. As well as we do have our grant making guidelines there. So we do encourage everyone to kind of, peruse that as well. And if there are any further questions, you can always email me. I'm just simply at alex@waynecountyfoundation.org, or you of course can give us a call.
Okay.
But the grant making is a huge part of the mission of the foundation. Last year in 2021, the foundation actually granted out a little over $2 million back into the community. So it's a big part of our mission. And then about a little over, nearly $600,000 in scholarships. So we are constantly trying to think of new, innovative, creative, impactful ways to partner with local nonprofits and to get our donors' money into the community.
Right. Well, kind of speaking along the lines of money, tell us about how you guys are funded, right? Where does the money to put those millions or hundreds of thousands of dollars out in support of nonprofits or scholarship, where does that come from? Is it private money? Is it public money? Is it grants? Combination?
Yeah, great question. Almost exclusively our money, our assets kind of come through by way of private foundations. So folks might, leave a planned gift in their will to the foundation. And we have lots of living donors as well. I think that's one of the things people think about the community foundation. It's a bunch of people who have passed away, who have left money, but we have a lot of donors who are very, very active in the community and want to see their dollars stewarded. So almost exclusively we are through private donations, but we do apply for grants ourselves. Actually, in fact, we apply for grants through the Lilly Foundation. That's probably the biggest one.
Right.
The Lilly Foundation is, of course, in Indianapolis and is a huge philanthropic organization who support most of the community foundations, if not all community foundations throughout the state.
Yeah, among many other nonprofit organizations and a lot of super important work. This state of Indiana, I don't know what they would do without Lilly Foundation, because they really, and the Lilly Endowment, between all of their structure and how they support across the state of Indiana, we many entities would feel some pain if they did not exist, and maybe wouldn't be able to be as impactful and get that work out there. So we definitely are all very grateful for them, for sure, right?
Absolutely.
Tell us about the staff. How many do you have? What's the setup like over there?
Sure. We have 7 staff members. We actually just recently hired our 7th. So I'm going to try to do this right.
Okay.
I should be able to do this, but when you're put on the spot, we have an executive director.
Don't forget
that's
her.
Rebecca Gillen. Yes, of course. Yeah. If I'm going to forget somebody, it's not going to be her.
Yeah.
We also have myself, of course, as community engagement officer. Amy Waltz serves as our chief financial officer. Teresa Scruggs serves as our administrative assistant. Lisa Bates is our database administrator. Cassia St. John is our program director for Forward Wayne County. So she's very busy with our Forward Wayne County initiative. Yes. And our newest hire is Daniel Arthur, who serves as our communications coordinator. So we're a relatively small staff, I think, but for the work we do, I think. But I think it's a really awesome group and very community minded and altruistic.
Yeah, yeah. So what impact would you say the Community Foundation has?
Absolutely. I think that we embolden and we empower the work of the nonprofits in our community. And it's very appropriate since we are sitting here on the third sector. But honestly, the strength of communities is found in the nonprofit world, is found in their nonprofits. They're the ones on a day-to-day basis who are carrying out their important mission-driven work, who are have the best sense of the pulse of a community, who know where the needs are, who can meet people where they are on it, like I said, on a daily basis. And we try our best to, again, just embolden their efforts and if we absolutely fund their efforts if we can. So that is, I think, big part where the impact of the community foundation is felt. And of course, as I mentioned, the scholarships. Wayne County, we are looking to increase our educational attainment. And not only that, after our students are educated, here in Wayne County, we've got a lot of great educational institutions. We'd like to keep them here. That retention piece is so important. So we do try to make our scholarshiping as impactful as we can as well to all the students. So, and we do facilitate the Lilly Scholarship as well, which is the full tuition scholarship.
Yes, very generous and lucky to have. So this is a question I ask everybody, but what would happen to our community if your organization, Wayne County Foundation, ceased to exist?
Oh, that's, I hope, as we sit here, of course, we hope that never happens. But I think, I hate to be presumptuous, but I think there'd be a lot of organizations that would probably struggle, and that, those organizations, again, that are carrying out such impactful work for our citizenry, I think a lot would struggle. A lot do come to the foundation almost every single year for funding for this project or that program. And so that would definitely, I think that that would definitely be felt. But I will mention too that, a number of our funds are endowed. So that actually means that they will live in perpetuity. So hopefully the impact of the Wayne County Foundation will be felt in Wayne County forever.
Yes, right. It's a difficult question. We don't want to think about those things, but it is helpful to sort of see the other side of what the community could potentially lose with something, an entity such as the Wayne County Foundation. If we didn't have that here, all of the things you just have talked about in our time together, we wouldn't be for our community. So anyway, well, we're going to have to leave it there today because we're out of time. But Alex, I just want to thank you so much as we wrap up this episode of The Third Sector. Thank you, Alex Painter, for joining me from the Wayne County Foundation. And also thank you to Roxie Deer for joining me from the Wayne County Chamber on behalf of TYPE. We really appreciate both of you guys sharing the work that you guys are doing in the community. It's wonderful and it's well needed, and we thank you. Stay well, and we'll see you next time on The Third Sector.